need the coaching. And so all my clients, if you have something that you're struggling with, let us know and you'll come first. And tonight we are going to talk a lot about attachment. So we do these Friday nights for everyone and to learn things about heartbreak and how to heal. And according to what we're doing in the program, we format these meetings so that you're doing additional learning and reinforcing. So for the people that are in Love Without Limits, we are going to kind of harken back to about a month ago before we started Love Without Limits and go into the roots of attachment and where this comes from in childhood. So I just want to say, like, general kind of trigger warning. First of all, we are going to be talking a little bit about childhood trauma with a, maybe with a capital T for you, maybe with a lowercase t. And then as we move into the coaching, trigger warning. Just, if you need to pop off camera, if you need to grab some tissues, like, take care of yourself with a capital S always. And just know that this is a safe space to discuss everything. You might hear 4-letter words. When we do community sharing at the end, we sometimes tell off-color lesbian jokes. And so just warning everybody that sometimes happens. And some people, just let us know if we can support you in some way. But again, I'm Sarah Webb. I want to make sure I'm serving you all. And today specifically, we're going to be talking a lot about relationships and emotions, and specifically about attachment, anxious attachment, avoidant attachment. It's like we don't realize that we're ending up in like the same relationship with a different person that looks kind of different, but we start to recognize these patterns, like the dynamic is similar. And what we can do is look back and say, like, how is this person like one of my primary caregivers? So it could be a mother figure, a father figure, an aunt, a grandma that you went over to their house every day, maybe a daycare person that you're not even aware of. And it's really important to understand how early childhood, and we don't need to unpack it, and that's not what we do in our programs. In therapy, there's a lot of looking back, and this is what happened, and then where are the solutions? Unless you've got a really great therapist who's really like providing you tools to go home with and like what to do going forward. I think therapy has its place, especially if there's some deep trauma. Like, I was raped by 8 men when I was 28. I completely shut it away. I didn't think about it, didn't talk about it. I just drank and was still deeply in the closet. But when we can understand how early childhood conditions us and understand a little bit about the subconscious and the neuroplasticity that we actually have to benefit us later in life, then we can start to change how we show up in relationship. Because actually, when we're ages 0 to 7, we're in a meditative state. We're meditating. We're taking in everything as absolute fact. And our primary caregivers, we believe that they're gods almost. And it's like, I remember that day when I was like, wow, this is just a human. Like, my parents are not that amazing, but our subconscious is solidifying so that we can form models of the world and be able to predict and make outcomes that are, predict those outcomes and be able to like keep ourselves safe in a way. And it's only helpful for things like how to unlock a lock. You don't have to think about all the nuances of how to do that when you're older, but then we get programmed with these subconscious beliefs, these core wounds, disempowering beliefs that are not serving us. And then we end up in survival mode in our next relationship. And so when we get yelled at as kids, we kind of like take responsibility in a way and feel like, well, the reason why my mom is not feeding me or is yelling at me or is ignoring me is because of me, and I'm not good enough and I'm unworthy. And so we then later on in life, these become our triggers in relationships. And we are programmed with repetition and emotion. So we're going to go through these 3 attachment styles. You might have heard them called slightly different things, but overall, the experts agree that there's anxious attachment, avoidant attachment, and then the combination of anxious and avoidant attachment in one person, which is something I'm healing from. I'm both anxious and avoidant, and it depends on the relationship as to how I've shown up in the past. So as you go through this, if you have any questions, please feel free to throw them in the chat. I know somebody joined us. Hi, Amy. How are you? Great to see you. And so if you have a question directly for me, you don't want your name read out, please shoot it to me directly in the chat. I will not read your name. If you do want to volunteer for live coaching, send that to Priscilla. So let's talk about avoidant attachment. You might have heard this called dismissive avoidant. Now we're going to go through where this comes from in early childhood, as well as what it shows up like later on when you're in relationship. I saw a question from Jackie or Jax. Is it common to be both anxious and avoidant? We're going to go through that. I think it is more common for those of us with big T trauma or repeated little t trauma. So going on just the avoidant people, which, in early childhood, basically these people, maybe they didn't have like physical neglect, but they had emotional neglect. And basically their primary caregivers just weren't emotionally attuned. They were kind of like emotionally abandoned. And they learned that it was beneficial for them to suppress their emotions, to hide their emotions. And they learned that positive emotions got rewarded and that negative emotions were punished. So they learned to self-soothe and to be counter-dependent and to suppress and repress the emotions, which are 2 different things. Suppression is one thing, repression is a different one. We don't have a whole lot of time to go into the nuances of that. But later on in relationship, these are the exes that you've had, or maybe this is you. You tend to move cautiously and slowly because it just doesn't necessarily feel safe. You really want to get to know a person first. If there's, these people tend to think that there should be no problems in relationship whatsoever. And that if there's any issue, the grass is always greener. They go cheat, they go, join a dating site while they're dating somebody already. And they tend to pull away emotionally, even if they haven't fully pulled away from the relationship. When crisis or arguments arrive, they need space. They need time to process it. And their empathy, their ability to empathize with their partner and even with themselves is greatly diminished when they're triggered because they weren't empathized with. They weren't validated as children. So as a result, you might think of this person as being cold or rude or insensitive. The truth is they just don't have the skill set because it wasn't modeled for them. And they might end up having core wounds of like feeling trapped. And after a big breakup, they're like, I don't need anyone. I am never dating again. And avoidant people are attracted magnetically to anxious people. So we're going to segue. When we talk about anxious people and what they experience in early childhood, they had a lot of positive associations, a lot of warmth. Their caregivers were very attentive, but it wasn't super consistent. So maybe they had a really great, one of their parents was really attentive and kind, but they were left with the other one for the most part during the day, or left with a nanny or a grandmother who maybe wasn't as attentive. So they have a little bit of disorganization there. So they tend to have a lot of positive associations with physical touch. And these, might be called love bombers at first, or that might be more the anxious and avoidant, but they love intensely and they want to move very quickly in relationships. And this can also form in early childhood if maybe like their mom had a medical emergency or died, like their primary caregiver, their mother figure had to go away on a trip or had some sort of psychosis of some sort. And also something as innocuous as just like not being picked up on time and just not feeling important. So later on, these people tend to be very unrealistic for their expectations, and they have a lack of boundaries. They might be prone to feeling lonely, and they believe that the relationship should be the number one priority, no matter what. They also tend to put people on a pedestal, and they worry a lot about being abandoned. Sometimes they can feel frustrated and feel like they're being taken advantage of. They also might like take things personally in some way, and so like small things might really make them think that the relationship is over, and then they cling, like somebody not texting them back on time or something like that. And now we'll talk about the anxious and avoidant attachment. It's actually not like none of these are more common than the other. It's just that anxious avoidant early childhood is characterized by chaos and by big T trauma. So this was me. I was sexually abused from a very young age by my father. And it also might emerge from just a lot of chaos, like caregivers fighting a lot in the home. And also like caregivers being passive aggressive, violence in the home, sexual abuse trauma, like I spoke, maybe an addictive parent or an alcoholic parent, to where like they come home feeling great one day because they're drunk and being PO'd the next day because they're drunk, and then feeling great because they had a good day at work, and then be going through withdrawals and end up, acting out. So people who have both anxious and avoidant attachment, which I am healing from, I'm working towards secure attachment, they have difficulty setting boundaries at first, but then they'll set a hard boundary, like maybe during conflict or when they are feeling unsafe. They tend toward people pleasing, maybe being a little like hot and cold. And they tend to really need a lot of evidence as to why somebody likes them or why somebody wants to be with them. They are also more prone to cheating and lying because they don't feel safe and they're trying to make themselves feel relevant in other ways. Of course, we want to work toward secure attachment. How do we do that? Well, like I mentioned, from ages 0 to 7, we are meditating. There are 5 brainwave states. Delta is deep sleep, and we're in delta from ages 0 to 2. This is why babies sleep so much. Theta is another stage of sleep. It's also deep meditation. And this is where you're very impressionable. So like if you ever see a hypnotist who's like making people, he's like getting them into theta brainwaves, and then they will like play or act like a duck or something like that. Of course, with meditation, you're totally in control and you're getting down to this brainwave state. Alpha is like that very light stage of sleep where you're really aware and you could be aroused very quickly. And we do slip into alpha, a couple times a day. We're in it when we first wake up and then right before bed. So we use this information about the brainwave states. Beta is where we are right now when we're talking to anybody, when we're learning anything. Gamma is super high problem solving. You can't remain here for very long. But when we meditate, we can use these 2 particular states in order to change the way that we think so that we experience life differently. So you probably recognized at least your exes, if not yourself, as we went through the 3 different kinds of attachment. And so once you learn about yourself in depthly and learn about what you actually want to be, which is secure, these people are emotionally regulated. They understand that conflict is normal, but it's not the norm. They can understand multiple perspectives, and they really want harmony. They don't like to leave things unresolved. We all want to be secure. And so I want to just lead everybody in a meditation because I know that was a lot of information because I know that was a lot of information. So little quick meditation. I invite you to close your eyes. And even though we've been sharing on a Zoom, I invite you to just draw your energy into yourself. Draw it into your heart space. And pay attention to the way that your breath is flowing in and out of the nose. Maybe you can feel the gentle rise and fall of the belly. Pay attention to where you're actually being supported right now. Mother Earth is pulling us toward her with her beautiful magnetism and 7.8 hertz of vibrational energy. Maybe you can energetically open the soles of your feet and feel that pulsation coming up through the floorboards, through the concrete, through the wood, through your shoes, and enlivening you. This is Mother saying, I'm here. I've got you. You're tethered to me. Perhaps you can open the heart, relax through the jaw. What's the one thing that you learned that you're going to walk away with tonight? And what's one question you might have? And maybe you don't have any questions, and that's okay. Just continue to draw all your energy in toward yourself. Watch the rise and fall of your breath. Our breath is our life force. And when we can learn to pay attention to the body and harness the breath, then we can watch the mind. We have 70,000 to 90,000 thoughts every day. And 95% of them are the same thoughts that we had this day before. And 80% of them are negative because it's our subconscious trying to keep us safe. Watch your breath. And when you're ready, and only when you're ready, I invite you to come back. I'm going to share my screen and just talk a little bit about an upcoming program that we have. I'm unable to find my screen. Let me see if I can find it. You should be able to see it. Give me a thumbs up if you can see it. Okay, awesome. So this is the last time we're going to run this program live. It's going to be up on a portal very soon. But if you're feeling lost, unbalanced, or any of these feelings of overwhelm, I believe that queer hearts break harder and that lesbian love is different. And that's why lesbian heartbreak is different. And I love sharing science-backed tools that are, sprinkled in with a little spirituality and just the nature of vibration. We learn to heal our hearts and reprogram these attachment styles, as well as healthy coping mechanisms, otherwise known as stress management. So we don't end up like binging on food or wine or TV or scrolling. And then I always say that these are pocket-sized meditations, pocket-sized techniques. Some of them are open eyes techniques that you don't even need a pocket for. This is the first time we're going to offer this program for 13 weeks. Last time, and the one that's finishing up right now, was only 9 weeks long. And you can read for yourself. I don't want to, trick your eye and be saying things as you're reading. If you want this entire text, just send me your email address in the chat, and I'm happy to email you all of this. This is about healing in community. We have a chat on Marco Polo that everyone joins, and everybody's at different stages of healing. And basically, it's a 24/7 space where you can come on and get support from me. So we have meetings once a week, but those you don't have to be present for, and you get the replay. And then again, this is the last time we're running this live. And while you're in the program, you get 50% off meeting with me one-on-one. So I don't want to perseverate over this because I really want to serve you all and make sure that I can, find out what's going on and whatever questions you have. But we are starting on Tuesday, September 10, and it'll be at 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific, 13 weeks long. So it'll go all the way through the first week of December. And then the Marco Polo chat will be valid for another week after that. So it's essentially September 10th to December 10th. I will put these in the chat. You can sign up directly. There's a slight discount if you pay in full. And then there's a little bit of an inflated price just because we've got some fees to take care of on our end. And if you want to use Zelle, we do knock off 3% for Zelle if you want to Venmo or Zelle. And here's the curriculum. Let me make it a little bit smaller just so you can know kind of like what we're dealing with in the program. I always say stop the downward spiral, learn to spin within, and that's where you can use those pocket-sized techniques to be able to take control of your body like you felt earlier and take control of your breath so that the mind doesn't run away. Because anytime we're spiraling, that's the mind controlling the body and the breath. And we don't want that because the mind will spin all kinds of stories and it'll ask questions a million times. So tonight, it is still $1,200. It will go up to $1,800 to invest in yourself. And if you want to take advantage of this tonight, I have a special offer for you. Anyone who signs up today will get a custom complimentary one-on-one with me to utilize at any time during the program. So if you have any questions, let me know. I will put those links in